What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rewind. I am your host, Kyle Tyson. I'm separated from my co-host, RN. We meant to shoot this yesterday, but RN got caught up in the DMV with his son for several hours, and we couldn't rebook it, so it's just me today. I'm going to do this. It's going to be a really brief video. It's going to be really brief. It's only going to be about, 10, 20 minutes. I'm just going to give my quick thoughts on AEW Full Gear that happened over the weekend, and then maybe dive into some Survivor Series predictions. Before we do that, though, happy Thanksgiving. I'm shooting this Thanksgiving morning. I hope you guys, if you're listening to this after the day, had an awesome time with your friends and family, and ate plenty of turkey and watched football. I hope you guys had a great holiday. And then, are you guys going to do Black Friday shopping? Is that a thing after Thanksgiving now? Are we still doing Black Friday shopping? I feel like everything is kind of done at this point, like online, or they just do Black Friday deals now for like 1 or 2 weeks straight. So it's not like the pandemonium as it used to be, where we would all go the day after and just like beat up some Walmart employees to get like a cheap TV or something. So anyways, let me know what you guys are doing in the comments. Before we get this going, though, make sure you click the like and subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. Maybe leave us a review if you're listening to one of our podcast platforms. And then, of course, you can always follow us on Twitch, where we shoot these live, twitch.tv/SmackedRaw. Without further ado, let's go ahead. I ain't going to take up too much of your time. It's just me, so I don't want to go ahead and overburden you with too much Kyle without RN to even me up. Man, it's been a minute since I've done these by myself. Feels weird. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Full Gear happened over the weekend. It was a good show. It was decent. I missed the 0 hour kickoff matches, so I don't really have much to say on Claudio and Buddy Murphy and Eddie Kingston and Jay Lethal. Of course, I did hear about the MJF Samoa Joe taking on the Guns, where they dispatched them pretty quickly, and then MJF was attacked after the match, writing him off, which is a good selling point. I don't know if you guys are old like me, but that's what Sunday Night Heat used to do back with WWE. They would create a crazy narrative on the free show on MTV on Sunday Night Heat, and then that would hook you to get to buy the pay-per-view. So this was MJF essentially had his knee destroyed by the Guns, and he was carted off in an ambulance, and he was telling Adam Cole, "Don't let him take my championship." And you're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? How is he gonna defend the belt? Of course, it played into a lot of shenanigans and overbooking, and whether or not you are exactly into that, that's going to vary person to person. Me, I like it every now and then. I like that crazy stuff. I'm a big fan of, if you've listened to me previously on these shows, I am a fan of overbooking sometimes, so I didn't have much of a problem with it. The only other match that I missed was the 3-on-3 Darby Allin, Sting, and Adam Copeland match taking on Christian, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. Now, I did go back and see the highlights. I saw that nasty bump Darby took from Luchasaurus, the choke slam onto the apron. Of course, Christian Cage inadvertently hit Luchasaurus with the title, was chased off by Edge. This allowed the good guys to pick up the win, which was a fairly okay match. I do have like a small gripe. I feel like we still haven't really figured out how to make Adam Copeland or Edge a bigger focal point. However, I will say, while his star is not shining as bright, Christian, I believe, is absolutely killing it. Christian has been phenomenal. If you guys watched AEW Dynamite this week, he was just going scorch earth on Nick Wayne's mother, and I loved every second of it. Hey, what's up, Cage My IQ? How you doing, buddy? He says, Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. Now, moving on to the rest of the show, we did see a lot of title changes. For instance, we saw both women's championships change hand. Chris Statlander lost her title to Sky Blue, or no, excuse me, to Julia Hart in the three-way match. And then, of course, Hikaru Shida, who's turning into AEW's women's transitional champ, turned the title over to Toni Storm. Now, while I appreciate Toni Storm's new character change and I find it wildly entertaining, I do kind of wish Hikaru Shida was a bigger deal. She is an AEW original. She has that it factor. She looks amazing in the ring. She looks like $1,000,000. And I, in my mind, how I would have her is I would have her like a John Cena-esque, almost unbeatable force, so that when she does lose, she doesn't look like a chump, and it makes the winner a bigger deal. With that being said, I love Toni Storm. I think that she is a great focal point for the show every week. This isn't terrible. Shida has just kind of developed the reputation as a women's transitional champ, although she did have that great run. She's kind of like the unspoken Drew McIntyre of AEW, whereas she had a really great reign, but it was in front of nobody, because it was unfortunately during the pandemic when wrestling sucked. And then moving over to the TBS title, Chris Statlander, of course, looked amazing in our Globo Gym Vipers uniform. It was paying homage to Ben Stiller, and in Dodgeball, I thought the shit was hilarious. I loved every second of it. I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that picked up on the reference. You know, that movie is getting a little bit up there in age, so I was happy to see that a lot of other people pointed it out, and it was fantastic. I loved every second of it. Julia Hart is showing that AEW slowly but surely has been developing young talent. Julia Hart is doing awesome character work, rightfully so, getting way over with the crowd. A lot of fun. The only bummer I had about this, once again, goes to the champ losing. Statlander at one point had the AEW fan base in like a fever pitch. They wanted great things for her. They wanted her to be the one to dethrone Jade Cargill, and even though she was, it was done in kind of like a underwhelming manner, and the hype behind her kind of fizzled. Now, of course, it's not AEW's fault entirely too. Statlander had I think like 2 injuries back to back, which kept her off TV for a long time, and it was hard to sustain that level of hype and anticipation while she was gone. But hopefully we got good things for her in the future. Moving on, we had another championship title. Or no. We actually had a title stay with the champion in Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley. This match was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't too much to write home about. It did not, I don't think it outperformed their original championship match. It was still a fun match nonetheless. Moxley developing the character about not giving a damn about Orange Cassidy's Orange Punch was a nice touch. I do feel, though, after this feud, there's probably just more to come between Blackpool Combat Club and the Best Friends. Cassidy's belt being one of a million on AEW's programming, I do think his stands out amongst a lot of the other titles. His belt does seem like the workhorse title. Of course, I think it's paying homage to the Intercontinental Championship over in WWE, which is weird because Tony Khan announced the Continental Championship Tournament, where a new champion is going to be announced at World's End. We're doing like a round-robin points-based tournament for yet a new champion. After Eddie Kingston won his match during the pay-per-view, he announced that both his Ring of Honor World title and his New Japan, forgive me here, I think it's his open weight, maybe strong title. He's double champ right now between Ring of Honor and New Japan. He says those belts are up for grabs as well in the tournament, and they'll be, I guess, defended in every match along the tournament, meaning that not only will the winner of the tournament win the Continental title, but in result, win the 2 other belts, crowning the first Triple Crown champion. If that sounds convoluted, it's because it absolutely is. I love tournaments. I love stakes. This is a bit silly. It's a bit much. It's hard to follow a little bit, but I'm sure that the matches leading into it are going to be great. And of course, if you have Kingston defending those belts along the way, Kingston's amazing. I'll take that all day. Cage says it was strong open weight. Thank you. Thank you, Cage. Yeah, I'm having trouble figuring out which belt that was. This moves us on to my match of the night, my favorite match, and I think this has kind of been mostly praised. Of course, this is a divisive match. The Texas death match between Swerve Strickland and Adam Page. This match was absolutely bonkers. Now, it's got a lot of fans divided. It is not a lot of people's cup of tea. If it's not your cup of tea, I respect that decision. I completely understand why, because it was a bloody, gross, hard-hitting affair between these two men. Swerve started out eating a buckshot lariat from Page right out the gate. He had his hands bound, and Page started taking the staples to him. Before that, though, he had busted Swerve open with a chair shot to the head. It was protected. It was not an unprotected shot. However, when Swerve started to bleed, Page drank his blood. Now, this was, like I said, a very divisive moment. In the crowd for it, it was so shocking and gross and appalling, but I feel like in the right way, where I was absolutely shocked. I couldn't look away, and all of a sudden, I forgot that I was watching a wrestling match and was just invested in this brutal fight that was taking in front of me. I was hooked, line, and sinkered. I'm not gonna lie, this match is probably gonna be it's already in contention for my match of the year, and it is probably a front runner for my favorite match of this year, because it was so violent, yet it told such a fantastic story along the way. Page was trying to sink down to the depths of evil that Swerve can go to, and of course that is Swerve's house, not Hangman Page's. So he couldn't keep up down there. Swerve was able to eventually get the win. This match was brutal. If you are into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend you seek it out and watch it for yourself. I've already watched it twice. Now, for the camp that's against it, it's for every reason I just said. You saw Page drink Swerve's blood. There was blood everywhere. There was a staple gun involved in this. Swerve getting multiple things stapled to his body throughout the match. There was a Death Valley driver on a cinder block, a bunch of barbed wire. This match was brutality. I think the only low light for me, besides all of that, if you're not into that stuff, was you had Brian Cage get involved in the match, and it seemed like a little out of place, but I think that just helped protect Hangman a little bit more. That not only did he have to deal with Swerve and Prince Nana, there was like one more person. So ultimately, when Page ate the L, he still ate it fairly protected, and I think both guys came out of this match looking way better than they did going into it. And then lastly, unfortunately, the match I probably cared the least about is the one that followed this. That was the tag team match between Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. They call them the Golden Jets. I think it's a terrible name. Jericho is all about him, and actually Kenny Omega are all about branding every time that they're involved in a new tag team or a trio. The Golden Jets just is not hitting for me, either as a name and as a team formation. I feel like this was just them trying. It has really just been them trying to carry the momentum of the hype that they had when they were involved in matches in Canada, where they are both like Winnipeg hometown heroes, and the crowd absolutely ate it up while they were there. While they are away, it is just not a fun mix. And they're taking on the Young Bucks, and the Young Bucks' guaranteed title shot was on the line here. Unfortunately, the match was okay. Like it would have been, you know, the thing that hurt this match the most is it had to follow that Texas death match. However, had this been like a main event of Dynamite, it would have been a cracking main event. Like it would have been fantastic. I don't think it really deserved a spot on the pay-per-view, along with maybe a couple other matches in here. The runtime of this pay-per-view was pretty egregious. Once again, AEW trying to get as many matches as they can. I think by the time it was all said and done, this pay-per-view ran for a little over 4 hours, which is just a bit much, to be fair. But anyways, yeah, this match would have been a great, main event of Dynamite, but with it following that death match and then given the stakes and then everybody that was involved, I could really just have cared less during this match. I think I tuned out the 3/4 of the match and really only started to pay attention at the end, in which case, shockingly, Jericho and Omega ended up picking up the victory, which meant not only do they not have to break up as a tag team, because that was also on the line, but they get to take the Young Bucks guaranteed title shot, which is, once again, in a bubble, good and bad. I know some people are kind of weary, wore out of the Young Bucks constantly being in the title picture. Of course, this what should have we should have seen coming, given that earlier in the night we had a crazy ladder match for the titles that featured FTR, La Faction, the Kings of the Black Throne, Big Bill and Ricky Starks. And of course, Big Bill and Ricky Starks ended up retaining. So this did set up like the heel versus face dynamic, but I think this is like the least I have cared about these tag titles, and now honestly, like the people involved. No offense to Big Bill and Ricky Starks, like I love those guys, but when you're given all the names that are involved between their ladder match and then the Golden Jets and the Young Bucks, if they're the two names I'm interested in the most, like I feel like we're lacking something. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I feel like that tag scene in AEW right now for the AEW belts, and hell, maybe even the Ring of Honor ones too, to throw that in there. This ain't the best. Hey, noob! Happy Thanksgiving, my friend. But yeah. And then this brings us to the main event, MJF versus Jay White, the whole convoluted mess. Yeah, so MJF, of course, was able to make it back. Now, as silly as this was, because it was, of all people that could accept a match against Jay White on last minute's notice, it was Adam Cole who got the match, and the man can barely walk because he's got a legit injured foot. Besides that, before the match even begins, MJF has been revealed to have commandeered an ambulance and drove it back to the arena, and of course went on to have a fantastic match with Jay White. I know some people are upset about this because they feel that Jay White lost to essentially two crippled wrestlers and it makes him look weak. I don't know if I had that impression. I really don't think that I did. He did kind of look foolish that during the match, Adam Cole tried to slip MJF the title belt and the Dynamite Diamond Ring, both of which wound up in Jay White's hands. And then he ended up using them against MJF, and he still failed to get the win. So yeah, I get that, he's not coming off looking the strongest. I don't think he looks like a chump, though. I feel like they just had a really good match, and MJF got by the skin of his teeth. But like I said, it does leave the crowd a bit divisive. Overall, I think it was a good match. There was shockingly no appearance by the Devil. A lot of people are saying it's because the Devil was involved in the match. I think a lot of people now are in my camp with believing that the Devil is to be Adam Cole is the Devil. We'll see. I do feel like the one lock that's going to be involved somewhere in there is Jack Perry. I feel like if he's either the Devil or he is one of the henchmen. Forget who brought that to my attention, but I thought Jack Perry is involved, and Adam Cole might just be the swerve. But yeah, overall, AEW's Full Gear 2023 was a fairly, I would say, like a high C like a C plus pay-per-view with an A plus match in there, being that Texas Deathmatch. Which, if you weren't into the Deathmatch, this was probably just a par pay-per-view to you at that point. But I feel like that Deathmatch for me really elevated the prestige of this event. MJF went to the press conference afterwards and said that, they do try to offer like a variety show, which is honestly like what AEW was kind of built on, is being like the variety show. There's a little bit of everything for everyone. And I felt like that was on display during this pay-per-view, between a mix of like the women's wrestling, the hardcore stuff, the crazy tag teams, the ex-WWE wrestlers, just the young up-and-coming talent from AEW. There really is like just like a full broad spectrum of different genres of professional wrestling that was involved in this pay-per-view, and I thought that was a good point to point out. Anyways, so let me know what you guys thought of the show. Before I end this video, though, I want to take a look at this weekend's Survivor Series War Games. I feel like this is going to be a really fun show. I know Chicago has been excited. WWE, transition here now. WWE has had to open up seats on 2 different occasions, like removing LED boards because of how highly anticipated the show has been in Chicago. They've essentially sold out their arena 3 times. So there is a lot of good hype around the show. For me personally, I'm kind of like the AEW like pay-per-view. I feel like there's nothing that I'm sitting in high anticipation for. However, I do know when I tune into this show, I'm probably going to have a lot of fun. So take that as you will. I don't know exactly what that says about hype level. But here we go. So we have the Intercontinental Championship match between The Miz and Gunther. Now, as much as I love The Miz, I've gone on record saying that I still hold The Miz as the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all times. He's only 1 reign away from tying the most reigns in WWE. There was a funny little slip by Michael Cole on Monday Night Raw, where he says The Miz is tied with the most reigns, and he was only a half a second away from mentioning Chris Jericho's name when he said tied with, and then he had to transition and realize like, oh yeah, we can't mention those other guys. And then he's also only about like having the most combined days as Intercontinental Champion of all time. I feel like when we close the book on Mike the Miz Mizanin, he will go down in the records for a lot of people. It won't be a clear-cut winner, but for a lot of people, I believe they'll agree that the Miz is either the GOAT of the IC Championship belt, or he belongs on the Mount Rushmore of the best IC champions of all time. That is just my 2 cents there. With that being said, he's absolutely not winning this match against Gunther. Gunther's on a hell of a run. Gunther is a fantastic champion. Of course, he holds the record for the longest IC title reign in history. The moment he does drop this belt, whoever gets the belt off him is going to be a huge deal, and Gunther is going straight into the world title picture. The build between these guys has been fantastic too. Gunther telling The Miz that he followed his dream to becoming a WWE wrestler, and when he got here, all the heroes he looked up to bullied him. And 20 years later, we should still be bullying The Miz, in which case he quite literally did bully him. He was like pie-facing him and stuff. It was fantastic character work. And oddly enough, believe it or not, Miz as a babyface in this little hyperbolic bubble here, it's working pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It's weird. It's odd whenever the Miz works good as a babyface, but I feel like we're in just one of those weird times where it's clicking. All right. Enough gushing over like one of my favorite wrestlers. Let's move on. We have the Women's World Championship match between Zoe Stark and Rhea Ripley. There's not much to write about here. Zoe Stark is on the come up. Very good things from her, but there is no chance, not a chance in hell, she's getting this belt from Rhea Ripley. This is probably the biggest lock of the night. Rhea Ripley is definitely retaining that title. And not much more needs to be said, other than I do really like Zoe Stark. I feel like out of all NXT up and comers, She has felt the most at home on the main roster, from how she talks to how she's presented to her in-ring style. The woman showed up day one and seemed like she's been on the main roster for the last 5 years. It's crazy just how comfortable she looks on television, and I love that about her. She seems like a major player. We got the women's War Games match. Charlotte, Bianca, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch taking on Damage Control. The team of Bayley, Kairi Sane, Asuka, and Io Sky. I feel like this match is fun. Bayley is kind of like in this weird position in Damage Control where she's a little nervous. Of course, Kairi Sane's in there, and Bayley's the one who took her out of WWE. And Bayley does feel kind of like an outsider in her own faction. Now, of course, her other faction members have done their best to make Bayley know that, she's appreciated and respected. However, it does come across as slightly disingenuous and kind of has that will they, won't they turn on Bayley feel to it. That feels like that's the story that's being told here. The team of the baby faces I could give a damn less about, honestly. As much as I love Charlotte and respect her, Bianca Belair, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch, right now this babyface team has nothing going for them story-wise, other than they're all really good in the ring except Shotzi. And I feel like my prediction is going to be that the heels are going to win this. This will be Damage Control. Now, the heels are either going to win or lose, but I feel like it's going to be in the same manner. I feel like they'll either sacrifice Bayley in order to distract the baby faces. So Bayley might eat like a bunch of finishers and then Damage Control picks up the win. Or the opposite, Bayley ends up losing the match for her team. I obviously can't pick both predictions, so I'm going to go with the former and say that Damage Control picks up the win here at War Games. The men's match is Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins. Of course, we got announced on Monday that Randy Orton would be in the match as well. They're taking on Judgment Day. Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, JD McDonough, Damian Priest, and then, of course, Drew McIntyre. In this match. I believe this is going to be a slam bang match. It should be a ton of fun. I believe Cody Rhodes is going to imitate his AEW moonsault off the cage by moonsaulting off of is it just a cage? You don't call it a cell because it doesn't have a top. Yeah, I guess the War Games cage. Yeah, I believe he's going to moonsault off that too. I love Noob says Team American Nightmare is going to win this match. Noob, I agree with you. I believe this is the good guys are going to win this match. I feel like that is going to help prevent a cash-in from Senior Money in the Bank Damian Priest. And then immediately afterwards, Randy Orton is going to RKO the shit out of Jey Uso, who looked absolutely shook when Cody Rhodes announced Randy's involvement in the team. Of course, if you've forgotten, I don't blame you. He has been gone for well over a year at this point, I believe. Randy Orton, of course, was medically injured in kayfabe by the Bloodline, in which case Jey Uso had a large hand in that. So, of course, he is going to be nervous throughout this whole damn match. In which case, not only that, I mean, I love that Jey Uso's character, that it is brought up a lot, that, his involvement with the Bloodline. He essentially has almost no friends in all of WWE. Essentially, Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes are the only people taking up for him. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Noob says, or he can RKO Rhea Ripley for laughs, because she's been presented as a threat. I don't think we're getting that, Noob, but I would equally laugh at that too. I still love that one time he RKO'd Nia Jax at the Royal Rumble. I thought that was fantastic. Now there are more matches that are believed to be had. I think Carlito versus Santos Escobar is taking place, in which case I believe that's Escobar's match to win. I think it'd be really stupid for him to turn on Rey and have this big arc as a villain, only to lose his first singles match against Carlito. Now you could make the argument that his Escobar's former tag team partners and Carlito would team up on him, causing him to lose because he has no friends. He's turned on everybody. But I just don't think you do that to a newly established heel. You give him the win. Say Escobar wins that match. And then another bold prediction is that there's something going on between Adam Pearce and oh God, help me out here. Why am all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank? I got through this whole show without stumbling over my words, and now I can't think of the RGM's name in SmackDown. Nick Aldis. Thank you, New. Thank you so much. You saved my life over here, buddy. Yeah. Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis seem to be brewing something between them. Could it be a match between the two? I, for one, would love that. I don't know if that's the route we're going to go. It's just, I don't feel like Adam Pearce has been presented at any point like he can go in the ring, even though they do acknowledge he's a former NWA champion. I think more than likely what they would do is they would have maybe a traditional Survivor Series match, in which case they would pick a team from Raw and SmackDown. However, the team would be a bunch of mid-carders and jobbers, because all the best members of these shows are pretty much involved in Survivor Series. With that being said, I believe if we were going to do that, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say it would be Nick Aldis' team that would pick up the victory here. And that would be my predictions. That's my predictions for Survivor Series War Games. I appreciate y'all coming to hang out with me today, Noob, and of course my buddy from Cage My IQ. You guys, thank you so much. I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you on the next show. Peace.